Oh, Star Wars, you magnificent franchise that never goes away. It's never really gone. No one's ever really gone. Um, Star Wars is this beautiful franchise that, despite having so many hiccups in its history in its lifespan, it's always managed to have so many other good things about it. You know, Star Wars is always either the most controversial or most successful franchise ever. I mean, you got the original trilogy, which just kills. I mean, those movies are just fantastic and beloved. And then you have the prequels, which, oh boy, those movies are not nearly as good in my opinion, but I still like a lot of aspects about them. In fact, I actually really like Episode 1. I think Episode 1's very underrated. I think Episode 2 is not only the worst Star Wars movie ever made, but one of the worst movies I've ever had to sit through in my life. And, you know, a lot of people say they really like that movie still. I don't know why, but a lot of people still do like that movie. And I think it's because they can ignore certain bad aspects about it. Most people agree, though, that Episode 3 is a damn good movie. And I have to agree, I really do like Episode 3 as well. And that is why it's very exciting that we're going to be getting a Obi-Wan Kenobi show based after Episode 3. A lot of people really wanted an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie instead of, you know, a lot of other stuff, especially after the Solo movie. The Solo movie was, I thought was really good, and I really wanted to see, especially because they added Darth Maul into that movie. It was really cool. They could do the Boba Fett movie after, which I think is still happening with the director from Logan, which, hey man, that sounds like a match made in heaven for a Star Wars movie. I would love to see like a very like slow, dramatic Western feeling movie starring Boba Fett, made by the that's like kind of darker and grittier, and you know maybe deals with some more rougher issues. That would be really damn cool. And so I was hoping we could do the Boba Fett movie, and because it could have ties to bounty hunter stuff and smuggler stuff, well, Darth Maul is kind of set up as this ringleader in these movies now, thanks to Solo. So that's a really cool idea. And if you follow the Clone Wars show, Darth Maul is in the Clone Wars show. He at one point becomes the leader of the Mandalorian people. So this could actually be a really good moment for you know, adding Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul, and we could also have a good moment for Boba Fett working for Darth Maul in the Boba Fett movie, which hopefully that's still happening. And I don't think they're going to do an Obi-Wan movie now because of the show, but I don't know if I really want Obi-Wan to fight Darth Maul again live action, though if any two were going to fight, that would be like the dream. And though we get to see it in Clone Wars and we get to see it in Rebels, we didn't quite get to see it in live action since Episode 1, so a rematch with those two could be really cool. That might be something we might get in the show, but if they do that, I don't think they'll do it in Season 1. I think they're going to save that for later. It sounds like a Season 3 kind of thing, where they have to get really crazy with things. I mean, after all, that's what the Clone Wars did. They brought Darth Maul back way later. But I want to talk to you guys about what I think is going on with Rey. And I'm going to leave all that stuff in about Obi-Wan because I don't really have too much to say about the new Star Wars Episode 9 trailer, mainly because it didn't show that much. But I will say, you know, obviously the most interesting thing about that trailer is that at the very end we get to see Dark Side Rey. Now, what does Dark Side Rey mean? Well, a lot of people straight up don't believe she actually goes to the dark side. Uh, this is kind of funny because in the Episode 8 trailer, if you guys remember before that movie came out, they tried to really play up this idea that Rey was going to join up with Kylo in the trailer. And they showed Kylo reach his hand out and Rey reach her hand out, and then they like he said something like, "Will you join me?" And then she like grabbed his hand, and that's where the trailer ends. And the way it was cut, you could clearly tell the scenes were not in this from the same scene. So even though in Episode 8 they did join up, um, you know, the fact that she fought with his lightsaber didn't really mean anything. And I don't know if they shoot these scenes for the trailers just to put in weird, you know, misdirections, or if the trailer people just see these scenes and then decide, oh, we can make a misdirection with these scenes because there's a scene where they grab each other's hands, and then there's a scene where Rey uses Kylo Ren's lightsaber, which is clearly it's Kylo Ren's lightsaber. It's not her using her own red lightsaber. This time is a little different. She is literally in a black cloak, and she's literally holding a red lightsaber that is not Kylo Ren's. So something that's very interesting that's been pointed out to me many times is that the beams of her lightsaber more so represent Kylo Ren's lightsaber. They're very similar to his, where it looks like it's very unstable with the sparks shooting out. This is a cool touch that in the comics they've done this before, and in the games they've done this before. If you guys ever played like Force Unleashed with Starkiller, in that game, you can get different lightsabers that have different little like effects. So yeah, they changed the colors, but they also changed like it'll be like pulsating a little bit, or it'll be like unstable and sparky, kind of like Kylo Ren's. So they kind of introduced that kind of aspect that's it's been in the lore for a long time, and they introduced that into one of the movies, which and it's very subtle. They've never like straight up said it. Like it's not a plot point that Kylo Ren's lightsaber is, super cracked, and that means anything. It's literally just a visual thing that does not come up in the story at all. So that's cool. They also don't, so like, why is Rey's lightsaber like that? Does that mean that she took the crystal from Kylo Ren? I don't know. If a lot of people, like I said, are saying that dark side Rey isn't even really happening. Some people have suggested it's a clone, or that Rey is a clone experiment project created by Palpatine, that theory has literally existed since Episode 7. People told me that theory before they even watched Episode 7. Back when they didn't know if they thought Finn was an actual Jedi. Because remember, people thought Finn was going to be the Jedi because he had the lightsaber in the trailer. Stuff like that. People still thought Rey was like a fucking Palpatine clone, and after Episode 7, people definitely thought Rey was a Palpatine clone. So, in fact, people pointed out. I mean, that theory has been prominent for so long, for so long, and that's the funny thing when Ryan Johnson, he so famously says stuff like your Snoke theory sucks. That's what he always says to everyone, because he wanted to make Snoke's origin himself. A lot of people had theories about Palpatine being involved, and here it is coming to fruition. Either way, no matter what, we already know Palpatine is in these movies. We already know that. So how it's going to be tied in, if it's going to be done correctly and cool, that could be really, really cool. So especially considering we really don't know who Snoke is. So I'm really hoping they explain who Snoke is in Episode 9. Seems like Episode 8 left all the unanswered questions completely unanswered, and I think the problem is it was just a total waste of time. And honestly, I feel like I feel like a lot of people will be able to just watch 7 and then 9. That's kind of what I think is going to happen. So anyway, a lot of other people think that this dark side Rey is just a vision, similar to what you would see during when Luke was fighting. When Luke was on Dagobah training with Yoda, he had to fight Darth Vader. But of course, there was a vision of Darth Vader. It wasn't the real Darth Vader. And he decapitated him. He chopped his head off. And that was a visual cue. Because what happened was after he killed Darth Vader in the vision, or, this like spiritual Darth Vader battle, whatever you want to call it, Darth Vader's head, while it was on the ground, the mask was ripped off, revealing it was Mark Hamill's face, meaning, hey, Luke was inside the helmet, meaning he's, this is kind of like a double message, because for one, as everyone knows, Darth Vader is Luke's father, and it's kind of like showing him like, hey, you guys are cut from the same cloth, like you guys are the same. But it also has another meaning that's less literal, meaning, hey, look, you cut off his head. You are going down a dark path, and this could be you if you keep doing this. And, when you really think about it, Luke, because, when you guys forget what a Jedi wasn't really that well established in the first two movies. Jedi's got more established later on in the prequel movies. And in Episode 6, that's when it really got established, when Luke said stuff like, I'm not going to kill you, you need to join me. That's because the Jedi way isn't to kill. Stuff like that. In Episode 5, Luke was going to kill Darth Vader. He didn't know it was his dad. He didn't care. That was his enemy. Luke wanted to kill his enemy, and what happened was Luke learned a valuable lesson when the truth was completely, the rug was pulled out from under his feet. The truth hit him hard that Darth Vader was his father. And also that Darth Vader just completely outmatched him. And a lot of people say that fight is fun to watch because it looks like Vader is clearly toying with him. And yeah, he would be toying with him if he knew that was his son the whole time. So, really cool stuff. And when it comes down to Rey, is Rey fighting Kylo Ren in that scene? Is Rey fighting a good guy character in that scene? Or is Rey fighting Rey in that scene? Is it Rey fighting a literal clone in that scene? Is it a vision of Rey? Or, and the funny thing is with the crystal, the fact that the red lightsaber she's using has that red sparky nature to it, and it looks very similar to Kylo Ren's lightsaber instead of her own lightsaber. First of all, I really like that look for Kylo Ren's lightsaber because it makes the Sith or the bad guy's side look like slightly more menacing. It really helps for me. I think Kylo Ren is just a really badass character. I know a lot of people like to make fun of him, call him an emo and all that stuff, but honestly, prequel Anakin's the exact same, and Kylo Ren is actually written more smartly to use that aspect. So to me, it's like, okay, how can you complain about one and not the other? I don't get that. But the thing about Kylo Ren is that that lightsaber is menacing. It makes him look a little bit more evil, while also showing he's a little bit more unstable than Darth Vader, who wears like that sleek black metallic armor with this, nice, perfect lightsaber blade that's like commands respect. Kylo Ren, shows that he's a little bit more unhinged. But what I love about Kylo Ren is that when you watch him fight with his lightsaber, whether it be against Rey or whether it be against Luke, you guys make fun of him for losing every battle, but the thing is, he loses every battle because they forgot to make a jobber character that the good guys can beat up on. There's no jobber character in like there really isn't a jobber. Like in the original trilogy, there wasn't any jobbers either. But in the prequel trilogy, there was lots of jobbers. Darth Maul, for example, his whole purpose of his existence was just to be beaten. He didn't exist to do anything besides get beaten by Obi-Wan. However, he came off as, a slightly more capable fighter because he actually killed Qui-Gon Jinn, as well as he caused a ruckus and was a menace to the good guys. And because he died his first movie, it didn't matter because he also killed someone his first movie. So that made him a memorable villain. And then Count Dooku, he actually won his fight. So that's the thing. The bad guys were kind of treated with a little bit more respect, and that's the thing about the 6 Star Wars movies before this new trilogy. And that's the one criticism I kind of agree with people on, is that the bad guy Kylo Ren loses every fight he's in that we see him in, and the funny thing is that when he was fighting against Rey, he was winning. He beat the shit out of Finn, he beat the shit out of Rey. And he wasn't trying to kill Rey. He wasn't trying to even really hurt her that bad. He was just trying to, get her to surrender. That way she could join up with him. And he was basically saying, like, it's not too late. You can join me. I don't care that you've, that you're trying so hard to defy me and go against me. I don't mind. I will still fight alongside you if you want to fight alongside me. And, that's a really cool idea. So, Kylo and Rey, yes, Rey wins, but Kylo's clearly wounded. He was shot by the Wookiee bowcaster, and I feel it's so silly I have to explain this to people, like why Kylo lost the fight. I have no idea how people have really made it out to be that crazy of a bad ending that Rey beat Kylo Ren at the end of Episode 7. The only part that really bugs me is when the planet literally separates between them, which is like, okay, come on, like that takes me out of the movie because I'm like, okay, come on, that's so unrealistic. I know it's Star Wars, but like a world and rules have been established. So the fact that the cracks literally separated them as an act of God or something, that's so unrealistic. I just don't understand why that had to happen. But I'm going off on too much of a tangent here. My point is that Kylo is actually a skilled fighter. So, Uh, what's cool about Rey's lightsaber crystal being cracked like his is that this opens up a few more theories for that scene. And it doesn't really destroy another one. So this is kind of up for you guys to interpret. When we see the dark side Rey, and her lightsaber is all sparky like Kylo's, is this because um, Rey only knows red lightsabers as being sparky? So when she fights a vision of herself, it's all sparky like that? Or is it because Kylo Ren actually fights the vision of Rey? Now that could be really interesting if Rey is, Kylo Ren has to fight this vision, similar to kind of how like, in Dragon Ball when Vegeta is training, he wants to become a Super Saiyan. Goku and Trunks appear in front of him. He doesn't know Trunks is his son at this point, and they both turn Super Saiyan to mock him. So what if Rey appears as a more superior Sith in a vision that Kylo Ren is having? And if you really think about it, it kind of makes sense because it looks like Rey and the other heroes like Finn and Poe are going to be going off on an adventure for at least the beginning half of the movie. So the idea that she would be separated and in like a Jedi dark forest area, I'm not so sure about that. Meanwhile, Kylo Ren, for example, is going to be definitely separated from all the other heroes. It looked like in the first trailer he was like storming bases and like killing people with stormtroopers. So, we don't know. The other thing is, I feel like there might be a new villain, and a lot of people have talked about this because you never in the. It looks like Kylo Ren is about to run into Rey in a TIE fighter in that first trailer, but it never shows his face. It doesn't even show the mask. And that trailer reveals that he's rebuilding the mask. So, that's the funny thing. We don't exactly know what's going on with that. Like, we don't know what Kylo's doing, where he's going to be, how many times he's going to clash with Rey. We know he's going to clash with Rey at one point in this movie, but we don't know how many times. We don't know. But what I'm hoping is that they reestablish that Kylo Ren is like a sinister bad guy character, and it's looking pretty good. Then we also have, in the battle between Kylo and Rey is an ongoing one. It's very different from any other Star Wars movie where there's one hero and one villain who just constantly clash with each other for 3 movies straight. Yes, Luke and Vader clash with each other, but they don't clash with each other at all in the first movie. That's not really the point. It's the second movie where Luke and Vader have a fight. And in that movie, Vader wins, which is a really cool idea. That way, Luke can beat him later. And then in 3, Luke kind of turns the tables where he just straight up says it's not about winning or losing. It's about reuniting it and father and son being together, fighting for the right reasons, stuff like that. So that's really cool. And yeah, so what do I think of Rey and Kylo Ren's rivalry? I think Kylo Ren might be a little tormented by Rey. I think that would be a really good angle to play up, that Kylo Ren is no longer wants to train Rey, no longer wants to team up with Rey. That it seems like in Episode 8, Kylo really extended an olive branch really hard to Rey. It being like, hey, we fought along each other. We know each other very well. We're very connected at this point. Let's just work together. And Rey even wanted to, but she's like, I can't. And that's kind of why I think so many people don't believe that this Rey is actually like a dark side Rey. I think people don't believe it because Rey resisted the dark side temptation already. She straight told Kylo she's not joining the dark side, and that's what made them stop being friends for their short-lived partnership. And it was super cool to see Kylo and Rey work together. I think a lot of people think that's one of the coolest aspects of Episode 8 is that scene when they fight together. And honestly, I think I say what you want about Rian Johnson. The cinematography in Episode 8 is awesome. The fight scenes are really good, and especially when Kylo and Rey fight together. And I know some people might say, "Oh, it's so silly though. Like it's such a silly fight." It is a little silly, but the that idea of that scene was literally created just to show them fighting side by side, which is something you don't get to normally see like that. So it was really really cool. And my point is that at this point Kylo no longer wants to be Rey's friend. At this point we have to believe that Kylo hates Rey and realizes now he should have killed her when he had the chance, but he got cocky and thought that he could really train her and take her under his wing, and he fucked up. He really fucked up. Also, say what you want about Kylo Ren again, but Kylo Ren actually, and obviously, I'm not saying the new movies are better than the originals. Don't even pretend I'm saying that. I'm not even really saying they're better than the prequels. I like all of the movies, right? Well, I don't like the prequels as much, but I like all of the movies for their own reasons, right? And when it comes to Kylo Ren, what's interesting about him is that he did what Vader never did. Vader never killed the Emperor. Kylo Ren killed Snoke. That's a big difference here. Kylo Ren broke free, killed Snoke, and now he's the leader of his own destiny. Kylo Ren is a very interesting villain to watch, and he a lot of people, to me, I do think of him as like a Vegeta character who will turn good, but the thing is, he's becoming really irredeemable at this point. The things he's done is really bad, really really bad, and he wants to go further and further darker into the dark side. But a lot of people have really interesting ideas about a true balance to the Force. That there has to be good and bad. It has to be both. And can they live in peace with each other? And that would mean Kylo would have to really change the old ways. But as we know in Episode 8, it seems like Kylo Ren is actually kind of interested in that. It seems like Kylo Ren's not married to the old ways. It seems like he could be accepting of a change and be a new kind of dark side user. Maybe one that uses the dark side, but doesn't necessarily do bad and evil things. Now, the one thing about Star Wars is that dark side, while some people think of it as like a video game class, to me, I always think of it more as a story metaphor, like a talking point, a story point. And the idea would be that a good person would be selfless. They would do things out of love in their heart. They would do things to protect the ones they care about. They would do things to protect those who are innocent, who can't defend themselves. To me, that's like what Luke would represent, what Luke would do. Luke would want to protect the innocent. Luke would do things to protect his friends. That's what Han does in episodes 4, 5, and 6. Han starts out like not really caring about anyone and kind of like has a shitty attitude about things, but over time sort of opens up his heart more and becomes a better person for it. And that's something I like about the good side, the good guys. Han's not a Jedi, but Han's a good guy character, and it's sometimes more about just Jedi and Sith. It's about the message of as the whole thing as a whole. And Han is best friends with a Jedi, and he's married to a Jedi. So, then it comes down to, we talk about the bad guys in Star Wars movies. The dark side of the Force has always been about greed, power, selfishness. So, very different from doing things to help others and doing things to keep the peace and doing things because it's the right thing to do. It's more about doing things that they want to do because they want to do it. So, there's also like the rule of two and things like that. And Darth Sidious is definitely someone who's very much so all about the dark side of the Force. But what Kylo Ren is about, we don't necessarily know what he stands for. We already know for a fact he's not really a true Sith. But Kylo Ren could actually become a Grey Jedi. And a lot of people really want Rey to become a Grey Jedi. I don't really want that. I don't really want that at all. I'd honestly much prefer Kylo Ren to become one, or just stay a Dark Jedi and just be a Dark Jedi, and the two orders don't necessarily clash. They can live in peace somehow. The problem is that, so the way I see it is not like a video game class style where you can just choose, what class you want to be and have fun with it. Jedis would be more about healing and speed and, like status effect force powers and stuff like that, and Sith being more about like black magic, chaos, like electricity and powers that cause pain to people and stuff like that. Or maybe even like maybe even mind reading might be considered more of a dark side power, because that's Kylo Ren is really into mind reading, even though Episode 8 really didn't touch up on the fact that he can freeze people, which seemed to be such a big point of Episode 7, that he could freeze people and that he could read their minds. That was such a big establishing thing in 7 that Episode 8 just kind of completely forgot about when it came to Kylo Ren. And actually, that could have been a really interesting angle to bring up, is that, Kylo Ren read Rey's mind and Rey read Kylo Ren's mind, and maybe that's why they had a connection together. But instead, it was Snoke who did that, which is like, what? Okay, Snoke can just do that. That's why, honestly, Snoke could have at least explained that he saw a link between them because they read each other's minds. That could be really cool. But no, they didn't really do anything with the mind reading thing. Hopefully that kind of comes back. But either way, what I'm saying is about Dark Side is that as a story point, as a visual, like storytelling idea, it's like, again, greed, power, selfishness. So what would be the idea for why someone like Kylo Ren, who wants power for himself, why would he want to train like an order of bad guys, and why would Rey want to live in peace with that? Why would Rey and Kylo live in peace with one another when Kylo's done so many bad things throughout the world? Well, there is some inspiration that could be taken from things like Star Wars: The Old Republic, or Knights of the Old Republic, when we think about characters like Darth Revan, who is a very different kind of Sith, who kind of did a lot of different things that we haven't seen from a dark side character. And we could really see something like that with Kylo Ren, who kind of does his own thing, who doesn't really necessarily need to be bound by, complete and total power for oneself. Maybe Darth Sidious is a more sinister version of the dark side versus Kylo Ren's. That's my best theory. And that's why Kylo Ren could be a really interesting bad guy character, could be the best one yet, in my opinion. It all kind of depends on what Episode 9 does. But the reality is that I don't really know where Kylo Ren's going, and I'm kind of afraid he's just going to die as a villain. But I don't think Rey is going to turn bad, and I think that the red lightsaber crystal proves that. The other thing, and I don't know if Kylo Ren's going to be fighting her as a Force Vision or if Rey is. I'm honestly leaning more towards Kylo Ren fighting her. However, it would be honestly cool to see Rey fight that Force Vision. And if Rey fights a Force Vision of herself, then maybe she'll take that idea of the staff double-sided lightsaber and apply that for herself. Because so many people want to see a good guy version of the Darth Maul lightsaber. And so many people want Rey to be the one who uses that double-sided lightsaber. And the reason why is because she fought with a staff in Episode 7, and that was the first thing anyone said was, like, is she going to have a double-sided lightsaber? Now, so far, not so much. Again, I think it's because Rian Johnson is the director of 8. I feel like a different director would have put that in. But Rian Johnson, it seems like he didn't want to take from the Marvel idea of film where you have a lot of visual representation of growth. Instead, he wanted to kind of like do a 180 and flip the Star Wars fans on their heads, and I don't think it worked. I think it backfired on him horribly. And if you notice, we haven't seen Rose in like any of the trailers. We know she's still in the movie, but she's probably going to be very downplayed in Episode 9 because what's she really going to do, So yeah, and in fact there's a new female character that Finn seems to be hanging out with in Episode 9. It's kind of funny. Finn, it seems to be kind of like a ladies' man. First he hangs out with Rey a ton, and then he hangs out with this other chick, Rose, and now he's hanging out with another chick. So, hey man, Finn, say what you want about Finn being gay for Poe, but hey, I think Finn's kind of like a ladies' man. Yeah, and so the only thing about Rey being the one with the double-sided lightsaber, the reason why I'm not so sure about this is because in the trailer, we definitely see Kylo Ren and Rey battling each other on parts of the destroyed Death Star. And we definitely know that in the first trailer, Rey and her friends all show up there, and that's when we hear the Darth Sidious laugh. You know, the laugh from the Emperor. And when we see Kylo Ren and Rey fighting in episode or in the second trailer, it's kind of like on destroyed ship pieces. A lot of people are saying this is part of the Death Star. It probably is. To me, it looked kind of more like part of a Star Destroyer. So maybe like this is in the midst of the Death Star. And to me, that must mean that either at the end of the movie or midway through the movie, that's when she's going to fight Kylo Ren there. And the reason why is because I think that the beginning of the movie is going to be more of the adventure aspect of Rey, Finn, and Poe on that sandy desert planet. That in this new trailer we also got to see is going to be going to have like a big city area that maybe that's what they're trying to find. And also, it seems to be that they're with C-3PO and Chewbacca, which is great because Chewbacca did not get a lot of screen time in Episode 8. And again, I think Episode 8 really focused on the wrong aspects. It was a very different kind of Star Wars movie, and I think that that's what Rian Johnson thought people wanted. And I think that the reality is that you could do a very different kind of Star Wars movie and still have it be a Star Wars feeling movie. You know, you can basically take that same style and put it in a new universe with new ideas. And to me, that's what Episode 7 was. But a lot of people said, "Oh, it's just same old yet again." And it's like, okay, but you could still do that. And I think Episode 9 is going to be what Episode 8 should have been, but also wrap everything up because Episode 8 already exists. And don't get me wrong, guys. I like Episode 8. I actually don't think it's as bad as people say. To me, I think the movie is fantastic if you just fast forward every scene that has Finn and Rose in it. And that's a real shame because Finn is one of my favorite characters from Episode 7. And that's what I've learned about Episode 8 is, I really liked Poe in Episode 7, and Poe kind of sucks in Episode 8. I really liked Finn in Episode 7, or like BB-8 in Episode 7. They kind of suck. I love the fact that we got to see Han and Chewie in Episode 7. And we didn't get to... Han's dead, so I didn't expect that. But Chewie barely got any screen time at all. It seems like Rian Johnson didn't really know what to do with a lot of the older characters, and he kind of more so focused on the newer characters, plus Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia. Not the worst idea, but can we please get more of Chewbacca, and can you give C-3PO something to do? Like, seriously, what the hell? I mean, C-3PO got shafted in Episode 3 as well, but C-3PO actually had some of the best lines in Episode 7. I mean, Episode 7 really is a fan-favorite film. I think... it did so successful, and I think that's why people were so excited for Episode 8, because Episode 7 did so well. And it really is a shame that Episode 8 dropped the ball so hard as it did. And I think people who were Episode 7 haters kind of said, oh, people are finally waking up, and I don't think so. I don't know how anyone says Episode 7 is a bad movie. Those people are ridiculous. Episode 8, though, that movie is a little questionable. And I think Episode 9 could be the one that really brings it all together. But, like I said, Rey having a double-sided lightsaber is kind of unlikely, thanks to the fact that we see in the trailer that Rey is still fighting with the original Luke Skywalker lightsaber, which makes me think that dark side Rey is either something that happens at the very end of the movie or doesn't happen much at all. Because it's like a total vision. And if Rey does, it would be really damn cool if Rey did have a double-sided lightsaber. Because the thing is about this one is it shows that she turns it on and then extends it to a double-sided style. Like it just comes on with two and then she unfolds it, which makes me think she's not going to actually like fight with it like as two sabers at the same side. A lot of people made fun of that and said that's really impractical. Yeah, it makes no sense. It's just a very stupid style of lightsaber. The only thing I could think of is that it's supposed to be like a broadsword style, but the handle is like literally just two. It's just one handle like curved, like a U. So using a handle, it's like a U shape, makes no sense at all. So the reality is it's not meant to be fought like that, and it's just a double-sided lightsaber she can bend. But it looks like because it bends like that, that's actually two lightsabers stuck together. So it'd be really damn cool if she can like unhook it and turn the double-sided lightsaber into two different lightsabers. And then it would be really damn cool if she had a good guy double side lightsaber that's maybe like blue or green or something. And when she unhooks it, she can throw it, one of the lightsabers, at Kylo Ren at one point, and then he can grab it and they can fight side by side with each other. It's also cool that in the trailer it shows Rey holding a stick while using a lightsaber in her other hand, and she throws the lightsaber and it comes back to her. So again, this is kind of a cool idea. Like, what if the stick means that she's training to fight with a staff again, or that she has experience fighting with a staff, and maybe she doesn't want to use a sword style lightsaber anymore because she's better fighting with a staff because that's what she grew up fighting with. So maybe she's kind of foreshadowing that she wants to train with a staff, or maybe that dark side Rey vision is a vision that's only in her dreams, and it makes her realize that she should fight with a staff, and that at the very end of the movie, while she's on that foresty scene that looks like Endor or something, which really makes me confused. It makes me think that the Death Star might be on Yavin 4. Or no, it makes because of the forest area, but actually, I forgot, the second Death Star actually was on Endor, which makes me think that they're going to the second destroyed Death Star, because that would mean they'd be on Endor, and that could be a really cool idea. But that foresty area definitely looks like Endor, so it could still be Yavin 4, because Yavin 4 is a green foresty planet too, but that particular one reminded me definitely of Endor. And so again, she throws her lightsaber while holding a staff, which makes me think she could be training for fighting with a double-sided lightsaber. Maybe she can disconnect it and throw one and then fight and then catch it back, or, and which would be really cool to see. We're talking like how in Avengers Endgame Thor would like he had two, like a hammer and an axe, and he would throw one, fight with one, throw one, fight with his bare hands, get them both back, do crazy stuff like that. He was like throwing and fighting, and we could be getting cool action scenes like that in Star Wars. And Rey is a proficient fighter with both a staff and a single sword, so Rey could be the one who could fight that way with a staff that turns into one lightsaber. And maybe half of it is Luke's original lightsaber, and the other half is like a new lightsaber or something like that. And those scenes where we see her fight with one lightsaber, it's before she attaches a second one. That's kind of like big time theory mode. That's kind of like not what I actually think will happen. But I'm just saying, I'm throwing out some ideas here that we could still see Rey using a staff, and I really want to. And if she has nightmares plaguing her of her turning to the dark side, that could actually be a really cool angle, because that could mean Sidious is preying on her and she doesn't understand it, and that's what's leading her to the Death Star. Holy shit, I think I just figured out that's the theory I'm going with. Holy shit, I think I just realized that. Rey might be being fucked with by the Emperor. Wow, that's crazy. That's such a cool idea. Rey could be being like having these visions in her brain all the time of her turning to the dark side, and it makes her want to go find the Death Star. I don't know. Honestly, I think that the first 5 minutes of the movie might explain why they're going to the Death Star. And if that's what happens, then it might completely deconfirm my theory 100% in the very beginning of the movie. But that's the fun thing about Star Wars, man, is that a lot of times you walk into it not knowing what's going on, but you walk out of it feeling pretty satisfied, except for episode 8. But when it comes to 9, that's going to be the final one, man. This is going to end the Skywalker saga. It's not only supposed to end, this new trilogy, it's supposed to end all of it. So kind of makes me want to rewatch episode 8, kind of makes me want to rewatch episode 7, but dude, it just looks and sounds super fucking cool. So I'm excited for that, and I think I'm gonna end my theory stuff right here. Mainly because this video is just me kind of rambling and ranting on, but I kind of like doing videos like that because I get to have a conversation with myself, and it gets me to think. Like, I didn't actually know about this idea that Rey might be having visions planted in her brain from Sidious. That's just something I just kind of came up with on the spot. And the more ideas we get out there, the more ideas we can, it's just more cool ideas. Basically, it's just more things to talk about with Star Wars, and if I can get them out there and change my mind later after hearing new theories, that could all be really cool too. And I would love if people are inspired by my videos in any way. So I think I'm gonna end it right here. I don't really know what to expect from Dark Side Ray. With Star Wars movies, it's really hard to decide what's real and what's fake before trailers. But the cool thing about Episode 7 was me and my friend talked about Episode 7 for like an entire year, and before it came out, and we actually called that Kylo Ren was going to be Han Solo's son and Rey was not going to be Han Solo's daughter, and that Rey was going to be just a different character for a different reason who might have relations to someone else, but we were like, no, the bad guy is probably going to be Han Solo's son, and Finn's not going to be related to anyone because he's a stormtrooper, but we had ideas about like, Rey's going to be a Jedi too and stuff like that, and I don't think we did not think Rey would be the main character though. That's the funny thing about the movies, and we'll see what happens in episode 9. We'll just see. So I'm gonna end it right here. It's been a pleasure, and I'll catch you guys on the next